Welcome back to the deep dive. We are looking at the calendar today and realize something kind of startling.
Yeah.
It's early 2026, and if you've been writing code lately or even just managing people who do, you know the ground has completely shifted.
Oh, completely. We've moved past that, the novelty phase of AI. We are well and truly in the integration phase now.
Exactly. I was just thinking about the old days, way back in like 2024.
Ancient history.
Right. Remember the whole chat era? You'd open a window, paste in some messy function, and basically beg the AI, hey, please fix this for me.
And then you just copy paste it back into your editor. Feels so clunky now, doesn't it?
It feels antique. That was the era of the assistant. You were still the one driving.
The AI was just a passenger reading the map. But according to the research we're looking at today, that era is, well, it's fading fast.
Okay.
We are officially in the era of the agentic coder.
And agentic is the buzzword of the year, but it's doing a lot of heavy lifting here. It feels like a fundamental shift in responsibility.
It is. The key difference is just scope. In the chat era, you asked for snippets. Write me a loop. Fix this little syntax error. In the agentic era, you're not asking for lines of code.
Yeah.
You're asking for architecture. You're saying, build me a back-end authentication system. And the agent goes off and does it.
It's the difference between hiring a freelancer to write a paragraph and hiring a contractor to build a house.
That's a great way to put it.
So to navigate this brave new world, we have a really fascinating face-off to discuss today. We're looking at a review from Tom's Guide.
Published just this week, actually, February 15, 2026.
And the reviewer is Amanda Caswell. Her background here is, I think, crucial.
Oh, absolutely.
She's an AI editor, so she knows the tech inside and, but she's also a published YA author.
So she brings this dual perspective, right? The rigorous logic and the creative storytelling.
Which is the perfect stress test for where these models are right now.
Def.
The piece is titled Claude Code versus ChatGPT Codex. Which AI coding agent is actually better? So we're talking about the two absolute titans, Anthropic's Claude Code and OpenAI's GPT 5.3 Codex.
Two very, very different philosophies clashing here.
And that's exactly our mission for this deep dive. We're not just going to read out benchmarks or, tell you which one runs Python 5 milliseconds faster.
No, this is about the personality of these agents, because Caswell's review highlights something fascinating. One of them acts like a teacher.
And the other acts like a deadline-driven engineer.
Yeah. And depending on who you are, a learner trying to understand the machine, or a builder just trying to ship a product, that distinction changes everything.
So let's get into the ring. Round one, the bug hunt.
This is a classic setup, but Caswell put a really nasty spin on it.
She really did. She didn't just ask them to write fresh code. She fed both agents a Node.js script that was, it was a minefield.
It was functioning code, it ran, but it had these three specific landmines hidden inside.
Right, and to be clear for everyone listening, these were not syntax errors. The code worked.
But it had these deep logical and security flaws. First, a classic SQL injection point. Second, a runaway logic bug in a set interval function. And third, the big one, an unbounded global cache.
Okay, let's pause on that third one for a second. The unbounded global cache. Caswell calls this the silent server killer. Why is that specific bug such a good test for an AI?
Well, because it represents a lack of foresight. In a testing environment, an unbounded cache looks fine. You run the code, it's fast, everything seems great.
Okay.
But in production, that cache just keeps storing data, and it never clears it. It just grows and grows until, 3 days later, your server runs out of RAM and just crashes hard.
So a junior developer might miss it because it works now. A senior developer knows it's going to break later.
Exactly. It tests whether the AI is thinking about the timeline of the application, not just the immediate command.
So she hands this ticking time bomb to both of them. Let's start with Claude. How did the senior architect handle the pressure?
This is where that personality thing really starts to shine. Claude didn't just patch the holes. It's stopped and engaged in what Caswell calls pedagogical debugging.
It stopped to explain why the holes were there in the first place.
Yes. The review mentions a really specific analogy Claude used for the SQL injection.
The librarian analogy.
The librarian, yes. And this is just brilliant. For anyone who doesn't know, SQL injection is basically where a user can trick a database by typing code into, say, a search box.
Right.
So Claude explained it like this. Imagine a library. A user asks for a book, but because you're not checking their request card properly, they can slip a note to the librarian saying, actually, just give me the keys to the archive room and burn the card catalog.
Wow. That is such a vivid way to explain a security flaw. It's not just saying sanitize your input.
No, it's explaining that the flaw is a fundamental lack of authority verification. It wants you, the human, to understand the architecture so you don't make that same mistake again.
It's teaching you.
Right. But there was one moment in this test that, for me, was the real mic drop moment for Claude.
I think I know where you're going with this. It's about that runaway logic bug, right?
The set interval bug, yes.
So normally you'd expect an AI to just rewrite the loop so it closes properly.
Of course. Most AIs, and frankly most junior developers, would see a bug in a function and try to fix the logic to make the function work.
But Claude didn't do that.
Claude looked at the function, then it looked at the broader system,
Yeah.
and it realized the entire function was redundant.
Didn't fix the bug.
It deleted the code.
That is bold. The best code is no code.
It is incredibly sophisticated reasoning. It's saying the best way to secure this is to just remove it because you don't even need it. That's high-level architectural thinking.
It's not just following orders. It's auditing the premise of the order.
Exactly.
Okay, so Claude is the thoughtful mentor who tells you to delete your bad code. Now let's talk about ChatGPT Codex. The review calls it the lead developer under a deadline.
Totally different energy. Codex didn't waste any time with analogies about librarians. It saw the bugs, and it just went straight into defensive mode. It was fast, aggressive, and all about fortification.
And it did something Claude didn't do. It solved a problem that Caswell hadn't even strictly flagged as a bug.
It did. It went beyond the prompt. Caswell notes that Codex added input validation.
Okay, break that down for us. What does that mean in this context?
So the prompt was just, find the bugs. But Codex looked at the input fields and said, wait a minute, what if someone pastes a massive amount of text in here? Like 10,000 characters.
It would crash the database.
It would crash the database or cause a buffer overflow. So it proactively built a guardrail to prevent oversized text from ever getting that far.
It protected the user from a problem they didn't even know they had.
And, importantly, a problem they didn't ask it to solve. Claude missed that specific edge case. Claude was focused on explaining the existing logic.
Whereas Codex was focused on hardening the system against attack.
That's the crucial distinction. The source material sums it up perfectly. Claude Code teaches you how to prevent problems. It's all about the how and the why.
And ChatGPT Codex.
It protects you from the ones you missed. It's all about fortification.
So if you want to learn, you go to Claude. If you want to survive a cyber attack at 3 in the morning, you want Codex.
And ideally, you want both. But yeah, in this face-off, that was the clear divide. Codex was like a wartime engineer.
Okay, so that's logic and security. But let's not forget, Amanda Caswell is a YA author, so she threw a curveball. Segment 2, the creative terminal.
I loved this part of the test because code isn't just about back-end logic. So much of the time, it's about the interface, the experience.
She asked both agents to build a functional command line interface, a CLI, for a spaceship called the Vega 9.
And that ship is from her own sci-fi novel, Alara.
Right. So we are moving from fix the server to world building. And this is a text interface, but she wanted to see how they handled the creative intent. Let's start with Claude. The review calls its output a love letter to the sci-fi aesthetic.
Claude seems to have understood the vibe immediately. It didn't just spit out a list of commands like press 1 for engines. It generated ASCII art headers. It even implemented a CSS-style flickering CRT screen effect.
A flickering CRT effect? In a text terminal, how does that even work?
Right. It just shows that it prioritized the visual flair. It understood that a spaceship terminal from a sci-fi novel needs to feel retro-futuristic.
That implies a level of nuance that's, it's way beyond just code efficiency.
Caswell calls it cognitive empathy. It understood not just what the user asked for, build a terminal, but what the user wanted.
Which was make me feel like I'm on a spaceship.
It was acting like a set designer.
Okay, so Claude made it look perfect,
Yeah.
but then we have Codex, and this is where things get really weird and honestly kind of fascinating.
The T incident.
The T incident. I have a feeling this is the part of the review people are going to be talking about for a long time.
I think so too. So Codex built the terminal, but it prioritized the lived-in universe. It focused on the system behavior.
So to make the ship feel real.
It started simulating background events in the status logs.
Okay, give us the details. What did it say?
It added random ship anomalies to the status report.
Yeah.
And specifically, it reported thermal blooms on deck 3.
Thermal blooms. Okay, sounds like a problem. A fire.
Well, the log note explained the cause. It said the thermal bloom was caused by a crew member leaving a cup of Earl Grey tea unattended on a console.
Wait, hold on. A cup of tea.
Cup of tea.
The prompt didn't say simulate a crew member forgetting their beverage.
Not a word. Codex just.
Hmm.
It creatively generated a backstory for a thermal spike.
Hmm.
It decided that a functional ship has a crew members drink tea, and sometimes they forget it, causing a minor heat signature.
That is insanely specific, and it's a completely different kind of intelligence than what Claude showed.
It is. Claude focused on the interface, the ASCII art, the flicker. It wanted to match the genre's expectations.
But Codex focused on the simulation, the physics of the world, and the behavior of the invisible crew.
It prioritized the experience of the terminal being operational over the look of it. It made the world feel messy and real.
So it acted less like a set designer.
And more like a physics engine.
It's funny because in the first test, Codex was the aggressive engineer. But here, it's almost like the method actor.
Yeah. It's staying in character so hard, it's inventing props.
This creates such a fascinating dichotomy. You have stylistic authenticity with Claude versus lived-in immersion with Codex. So we have these two very distinct personalities emerging. Let's move to segment 3 and really break down the philosophy here. The review assigns these definitive personas to each agent.
Right, so Claude Code gets dubbed the master architect.
The architect, I like that.
And it fits. Right, think about what we saw. Deep reasoning, the librarian analogy, the decision to delete code rather than patch it.
And the visual polish, the creative stuff. The review says Claude is better for developers who want clean code and deep reasoning.
And it also mentions usability. Caswell points out that Claude just feels more plug and play. It has a better interface that keeps you inside its environment. It feels like a cohesive, guided experience.
You feel like you're working with a mentor.
Exactly. And then on the other side, you have ChatGPT Codex, the agentic powerhouse.
Powerhouse is the right word.
It's all about speed and production readiness. The review highlights its ability to run these long simulations in the background.
And those bonus guardrails we talked about.
Exactly. Header redaction, input validation. It's doing the dirty work that you might forget to do. It's less about holding your hand and explaining the library and more about making sure the library doesn't burn down.
So for our listeners who are trying to decide which agent to subscribe to, how do they choose? Because these subscriptions are not cheap and the learning curve is real.
I think Caswell breaks it down really well. It just comes down to who you are in that moment. What mode are you in?
Okay, let's say I'm in discovery mode. I'm a learner. Or maybe I'm a creative collaborator, I'm writing my novel, or I'm just learning Node.js for the first time.
Then Claude is your winner, hands down. Because of that intuitive bug finding, the way it explains things, if you want to understand your code, or if you want an interface that captures a specific aesthetic vibe, Claude's cognitive empathy makes it the superior partner.
It's the partner that talks to you, not just at you.
Precisely. Now, flip the script. Let's say you're in delivery mode. You're a builder. You know how to code. You're building a massive application. You have a deadline.
And you need this thing to work in the real world, secure and fast.
Then you want Codex. It's less plug and play, maybe a bit more raw, but it is more autonomous. It executes tasks quickly. It runs simulations. It fortifies your code against threats you haven't even thought of yet.
It's the partner that just says, I handled it, don't worry about it.
That's it. So Claude helps you build the philosophy of the code. Codex helps you build the fortification of the product.
It's so interesting that we've reached a point where we aren't just comparing features like context window size or tokens per second. We are comparing personalities.
That's the hallmark of the agentic era. These aren't just tools anymore. They're teammates. And just like hiring a human, you hire for fit.
Do you need the thoughtful architect who sketches on the whiteboard or the aggressive engineer who deploys at 4 a.m.?
And clearly, according to this review, the answer in 2026 is it really depends on what you're building.
And honestly, the fact that we even have this choice is a luxury. Both of these are performing at a near-human level.
It's pretty incredible.
So to recap for everyone listening, you got Claude Code, the senior developer who guides you, deletes your useless code, and makes things look beautiful.
And you've got Codex, the autonomous engineer who executes at high velocity, predicts security threats, and apparently simulates tea breaks.
The tea breaks are just the best part. I can't get over that.
Me neither.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what is the big takeaway? The so what for our listener sitting at their desk right now?
The so what is that you really need to audit your own workflow. Don't just pick the AI with the coolest name. Ask yourself, am I in a discovery phase or a delivery phase?
Right.
If you are discovering, learning, designing, exploring, Claude's architectural approach is going to amplify your creativity. But if you're delivering shipping, securing, scaling Codex's defensive nature is going to save your bacon.
It's about matching the agent to the face of the work.
Exactly. And maybe, just maybe, you need both. One to design the dream and the other to build the fortress.
I like that. The dreamer and the fortress builder. The professor and the contractor.
There you go.
Before we sign off, I just want to circle back to that cup of tea one last time because there's something lingering there for me. It feels significant.
It does. It raises a really provocative question about where this is all going, you know?
We usually think of AI as being cold, logical, sterile. We want it to be precise. But here we have Codex, the serious engineering agent, injecting human messiness into a system just to make it feel real.
It suggests that as these models get more intelligent, they aren't just getting better at math. They're getting better at modeling us. The review said Codex is becoming a master of the why of systems. Understanding a ship isn't just metal, it's people.
Right.
So if Codex can simulate unattended tea on a starship deck without being asked, are we approaching a point where the AI doesn't just build what we ask for, but builds the messiness of reality we forgot to include?
That is kind of spooky, but also strangely validating.
It is. We strive for perfect code, clean logic, perfect systems. But reality is messy. People leave tea on control panels. And if the AI is starting to inject that human messiness back into our perfect systems, well, maybe it understands the world a little better than we do.
Or maybe it's just trying to tell us all to take a break.
Maybe. Check your thermal balloons, human.
On that note, check your thermal balloons, everyone. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
We'll see you next time.